Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm delighted to join in the discussion and debate about Bill C-3. This morning, this bill was debated, and I was listening intently to the debate back and forth, primarily from Conservative members. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I actually didn't even hear from the members that stood up to talk about what is the purpose of the bill, why are we here, and what is the remedy that Bill C-3 is proposing. So let me start with that. Why are we here, and what is Bill C-3 all about? First, on Bill C-3, this is a piece of legislation that is attempting to correct a wrong. It is attempting to make Canada's citizenship laws charter compliant. In fact, Canada's citizenship laws have not been charter compliant for decades. And why is that? Because we have a set of archaic immigration citizenship rules. And somewhere through that history along the way, and in fact more specifically pertaining to this piece of legislation, back in 2006, the Conservatives under the Harper administration saw fit to take away citizenship rights for those who are second generation born abroad. So that is to say, in 2006, what the Harper government did was to take away the rights of Canadian citizens who are first generation born abroad to pass on their citizenship to their children who are also born abroad. So that is to say, if I'm an immigrant and I've become a Canadian, and if I were to have a child outside of Canada, I cannot pass on my citizenship to my child. That's what that means. And so that citizenship right was stripped away for Canadians by the Conservatives. As a result, this rendered many people having to separate themselves from their families, and some children were even born stateless. Canada is a global country. We go abroad to work, to study, we travel, and guess what? As life would have it, sometimes we fall in love. Sometimes we marry people abroad. Sometimes we have children abroad. But if that happened to you, and you happen to be a second generation born abroad child, you will not have Canadian citizenship right. And that matter was actually challenged in the courts. The Ontario Court, Superior Court, actually ruled that it is in violation of your charter rights. And the government had to actually remedy that. And so in the last Parliament, there were several attempts to try and fix this. In fact, Senator Yona Martin brought in a Senate bill to try to fix this. Through much debate, much effort, much collaboration, I, as the immigration critic for the NDP, raised this matter and worked with the government to bring forward amendments to fix the bill, to fix the charter violation. And we did. We went through a whole series of discussion, lengthy debate, and committee work, and came through with a number of amendments, which passed. But then it never got back to having third reading pass in this House. Why? Because the Conservative filibustered the debate and actually used a whole bunch of rules and tactics that delayed that debate, and they never came back. In the midst of all of that, the government, I said to the government, if you want to make sure Canada's citizenship rules are charter and compliant, you need to bring forward a government bill. And they agree. And Conservatives, by the way, at that time had actually said that if the government brought forward a bill, they would actually support it. So the government brought forward a bill, and what happened? There were more games played. The Conservatives again filibustered the House, and then we never actually got Bill C-71 passed. So here we are, again, Bill C-3 for the third round, still trying to fix the situation that the judge had ruled that Canada's citizenship laws is unconstitutional. It is not charter compliant. And the court actually had to give the government multiple extensions to fix this situation. And that is why we are here today, Mr. Speaker. The first generation born abroad Canadians, if they decide to go abroad and have a child, they cannot pass on their Canadian citizenship to their child at all. And of course, they run the risk of rendering their child stateless. The Berquist decision held that the second generation cutoff violates Section 15 by discriminating against first generation born abroad women more particularly. And I quote, disadvantages pregnant first generation born abroad women who are living abroad when they get pregnant by placing them in the position where they have to make choices between their careers, financial stability and independence, and health care on the one hand, and the ability to ensure their child receives Canadian citizenship on the other. Women's reproductive autonomy and family planning are extremely time sensitive, and the Conservatives' legal impediment to exercising this freedom comes at a human cost to women, parents, and children. So now, this is the reality. And an estimated of 170,000 women born abroad who are in the age range when people often start families are being affected by the current law. The Justice said in her June decision that these are not, quote, theoretical or minor constitutional violations, but ones that could lead to, quote, children being stateless. They can lead to women having to make choices between their financial health and independence on the one hand and their physical health on the other. They can separate families. They can force children to stay in places that are unsafe for them. They can interfere with some of the deepest and most profound connections that human beings both enjoy and need, end quote. That is why we are here today. This is what we're trying to fix. And Mr. Speaker, what I heard the Conservatives talk about was that the connections test, that, somehow these Canadian citizenship rights are deemed not to be rights. They somehow treat it that you have to earn your citizenship back. But if you're a Canadian, you have Canadian birthrights that's being passed on. These are not immigrants per se, Mr. Speaker. They are not trying to get their citizenship through an immigration process. These are their birthrights. If they were and the connections test in this remedy is that you have to establish and show that you have a connection to Canada. And that substantial connections test in this legislation requires that you have had some connection in Canada, having been here for 1,095 days. Not consecutively, because people travel, because people move and work abroad. And so therefore, you have to show a connections test of 1,095 days, not consecutively. I've heard the Conservatives say, well, there should be a criminality test. Well, would you apply a criminality test to Canadians who were born in Canada to say if you offend, then you lose your birthright to be a Canadian? No, we have the judicial system to go through to deal with that. That if there are criminality issues, a person will then go before the judge and the process will follow as they should. So, Mr. Speaker, it is time for us to fix this problem once and for all. For Canada's immigration citizenship laws to be charter compliant. Respect the right of women and women who have children abroad. Respect the right of all Canadians who travel abroad because we're a global citizen, because we work and travel abroad. And it is time that we honor all of our rights as equals in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, I've been able to listen throughout the debate today on what I believe is a very important piece of legislation. I know the member opposite in the past has been very supportive of individuals that should be having their citizenship today. In fact, that's universally felt, where we have people that should be Canadian citizens today but are not Canadian citizens because the House of Commons has not cooperated in getting the legislation passed. And I'm wondering if she could provide her thoughts in regards to the mandate that all politicians of all political parties were given, and that was to have a higher sense of cooperation on the floor of the House of Commons. Can she provide her thoughts in regards to being able to ultimately see this passed to committee?
The member for Vancouver East.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In fact, I've been championing the work of the government to say to the government that we need to make sure Canada's immigration and citizenship laws are charter compliant. I've carried this file for more than a decade. When first the Conservatives brought it forward in 2006. So it's been 16 years since that our charter rights have been violated, and asking the government and urging the government to fix this, working through a Senate bill, working through with the government on a government-introduced bill. So we're here again doing that. And it is incumbent for all members of Parliament to work collaboratively to honor the rights of all Canadians and to treat each other respectfully and equally. All Canadians are Canadians, period.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The member for Saskatoon West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I just heard the member from Vancouver East say championing the government's bill, and it made me think back to the last Parliament where the party of which she's a member continuously on issue after issue after issue championed the government's legislation. In fact, they were always supporting of it, and it sounds like even today they haven't learned much and they're still continuing to just blindly support the legislation being put forth by the government, even though they, in their party, which doesn't really even exist in the House here anymore. And so I guess my question to the member is, how is that working out for you? How and why do you continue to support this Liberal government, and how did that work out for you?
So just a reminder before I go to the member for Vancouver East, it's through the chair, not asking my opinion. The member for Vancouver East.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I think that's exactly the kind of politics and approach that Canadians rejected. And that's why they're sitting on that side of the House, and that's why their leader even lost his own seat and had to get a by-election to win his seat back. But I'm not here for any of that. It doesn't matter that the NDP only have 7 seats in the House. I am going to do what is right for Canadians, and I will continue to champion the rights of all Canadians. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, and we should all be treated equally, not in the way in which the Conservative wants to strip away the rights of women. That's what they've done in 2006, and it's been ruled by the courts to be unconstitutional. That's why I'm here to champion this and to make sure that this gets fixed.
Questions et commentaires. Le député de
The honourable member from Mulcaden. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for the timeline that she laid out and the different steps behind this bill. These are points that have already been discussed here in the House, and they're things that were discussed when they were passed in principle. And if it hadn't been for the election and the systematic blocking of the House last year, probably this bill would already have been passed. The Bloc Québécois would like to see a more wide-ranging reform of immigration because it's not a service that is performing well right now. However, it's clear that we support this bill. My colleague, I'd like to ask her, how does she explain that right now we're still discussing this bill at this point, even though it's already been adopted and passed in principle? I have to interrupt the honourable member to give time for the honourable member to reply.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the member for his question. He's absolutely right. The NDP work collaboratively with the Bloc, and they're absolutely on side to respect the constitutional rights of all Canadians, and particularly women. And we have debated this matter. In fact, this very issue went before committee for 30 hours. We debated the matter at committee at length. We debated in this House not 1 round, but 2 rounds already. So this should be made law.